Hi, I'm Rachel Vindman, and welcome to the first episode of Keep Moving Forward. On this show, we're going to talk about what it takes to get through life's hardest moments and what to do when you don't know what's ahead. Today, I am joined by my best friend and my husband, Alex Vindman, and between the two of us, we know a lot about how to keep going when you don't know what's ahead. So I don't think Alex has ever really had a conversation like this. You might know him from his testimony in the first impeachment, from his military service. He has two New York Times best-selling books, Here Right Matters, which is his memoir, and most recently, The Folly of Realism, with a really long subtitle that I can never remember. I'm sure he'll tell us. But Alex, welcome to Keep Moving Forward.
It's an honor and a privilege to join you and to be your inaugural guest. I could tell people I was there for Rachel Women's Keep Moving Forward podcast, and I'm so excited.
Congratulations.
Yeah, and I'm so excited. I was telling our daughter and our niece who's visiting that like they were there. They could say they were there.
Yes, they can. They can say we're here.
But
they were here.
It's super excited and proud of you for doing this podcast and for using your voice. And you know that I've been at saying that we should do more stuff together, and
here we are. By the way, we're in the same house but in separate rooms because we didn't have the technology to make it work side by side.
Thus far, you were like, nope, you don't rate. You need to work harder. You need to get there. You're not there yet. So I feel like I've made it now. So I'm glad that we could do something together.
Oh, by the way, I'm not sure I have my Do Not Disturbs on, but I just got a quote unquote political call that I'm ignoring to talk to you. And this is not going to be a podcast about politics. We might talk about the news of the day. I'm not going to do that with you, but in the future, some of my guests, we probably will. But right now, we're going to jump into our story, some parts that I think most people don't know. Before the world knew you, before the world knew us, we went through some things. We faced infertility, something many couples do. We also had a daughter who was born very early, and she only lived a week. And soon after she died, my dad passed away, and then my mom passed away less than 3 years later. But in the meantime, we had our beautiful daughter, Ellie, who is now 14. So I think it's really indicative of that there are so many ups and downs in life, even in the midst of great loss and tragedy and grief, great things can happen. So how do you think those experiences that we went through kind of prepared you and us to go through like our more public ordeal?
Well, first, thanks for that sweet baby, Ellie. Yeah, she's definitely a joy. I think a lot of my experiences, amount to perspective and having overcome challenges. I think in my first book, Here Right Matters, I take some time to think through what was it in my family's background that kind of nurtured resiliency and enabled some deeper perspective about the American dream and the American experiment and military service, combat tours, hardship tours around the world. Mm-hmm. Certainly our aspirations for family and the infertility issues and our first daughter and the hopes and dreams we put into her, and then Ellie kind of makes you understand what matters, what doesn't matter.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's the good thing about going through hard times is it really gives you perspective.
I think there's something to be said about the fact that, like, in the big scheme of things, the attacks from the political.
We're gonna get to that later.
Yeah, but from the political fringe, and even start a new career, all that kind of pale in comparison. So perspective, I think, and
Sure.
it's interesting that some of that comes later in life. I mean, if these were challenges that we had to face when we were younger, I think it would be more traumatic, difficult to navigate. But
Well, I
being in
think
our
that's the whole
40s,
thing about perspective. You have to be away from something in order to have the
yeah,
perspective that you don't have. I mean, we have a 14-year-old. We know all about not having great perspective. We're sort of experts in that. One thing I remember in particular when we lost Sarah is I remember sitting with you on the love seat in our little house in Alexandria, Virginia. And I remember like kind of being glued to you and just being like, I just have to know we'll be okay. I just have to know we'll be okay. Because I had lost my whole world. I mean, sort of. It felt like that. But then I still had you. And I just was like, I couldn't lose anything else. I just had to have you. And then not too long after that, my dad died. And I thought I'd never be able to survive something like that. And yet I did. And I don't know, that picture we have that's my mom and my dad looking at Sarah's isolette, and it's not like they just have like this joy on their face, and you can't see Sarah in it. But I remember one time after like we knew that my mom's cancer came back, and that she wasn't, because you don't really live very long with glioblastoma, and we knew she was going to die, and I was like, everyone in that picture is going to be gone. And it just really hit me like, but then there was this also a moment of clarity, like, but it's still going to be okay.
yeah.
And like, it's really weird to hold two things at once, because you're going to be really sad. It's going to be awful, but that life is going to continue to go on. And because
I,
that's what it does.
I think certainly we're coming up on 20 years together, but I think we
5 of the best years of my life.
yeah, I
That
think
was my dad's joke.
that was my joke too. But it's interesting. I would say that I just I don't really dwell on the past, and for me, it's kind of
That's
what
true.
your podcast is about. It's about moving forward, what's in front. What not the things you can't affect, but the things you can affect going forward. So
Are you going to use this tagline next time I'm bringing something that happened like 5 years ago? Or are you going to tell me I need to keep moving forward?
of course. I
Yeah.
mean, I would actually, take credit for the tagline
Okay.
implicitly in that, like, it's my philosophy, and
It is. That's
yeah.
true. You're a real optimist who does like to keep always
Um,
moving forward. That's
yep.
true. What What did you learn about resilience that you still carry with you now, either whether it was then or the impeachment or some other time in your life? Like, what have you learned about resilience?
Mm, I guess one of the fundamental things is that it's absolutely essential, an essential tool to have, to develop, to nurture, so that you could surmount challenges. That it's interesting. This is something that the military spends a lot of time. Like, how do you build resilience in your force, yeah, so that that you might mitigate the effects of PTSD or something of that nature.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily the easiest thing, and I think it's kind of almost unique to individuals. I think perspective is an important component of resilience. That you frame your challenges in a way that kind of makes them manageable. I think my optimism is not kind of idealistic optimism, but something that's derived and driven by by perspective and my lived experience, and kind of pragmatic, that this is what I see in people in the world around me.
That's very
um,
interesting. Actually, I've never heard you say something like that. That your optimism is that you to frame it in that way, which
it's a sophisticated and kind of like, because if you call somebody an optimist and it's all boils down to kind of like hopes, I think that is very, it could potentially be naive and simplistic.
yeah,
Whereas something that's grounded in lived experiences is a qualified, informed optimism. And I think that's a healthier form of optimism. Not that you're like flitting around like you realize thinking that the problems won't occur, that you're not going to have challenges in your own life. That the U.S. as a country and our democracy in this moment is just going to get better by itself. It's something that also couches and frames what you might need to do in order to affect
I like that.
moving forward.
Um, yeah. So, like, just hypothetical, uh, an example of maybe naive optimism would be when you have a project due, uh, let's say tomorrow, and it's 7 o'clock and you haven't even started it, like our daughter has done from time to time.
It's interesting. I would say that I don't know if she's all that different from me at that age, or even going forward another 5 or plus years. I mean,
She's like the
certain,
third twin, the
yeah,
triplet. I mean, she looks
yeah,
like you, and she
yeah.
very much has your personality.
So I think I'm not, and for a long time I thought it was a work ethic thing about, or people may have seen it as a work ethic thing in me, but it wasn't that. I think it was more of like what actually captures my attention and engages my passions. It has something to do with maturity and the honed skills to be able to focus on tasks and get them done. Sometimes that is actually, or the way that plays out is interesting. I might use like brute force to get through something, even if there's a more efficient manner, just because it's like a stubborn, way to get through something. Like, I don't know, patterns,
Mhm.
like making sense. Like you work through and you optimize like a rote task, like stuffing letters in envelopes or something like that, and you get it down. There might be an easier way of
I'm
doing
better
it.
at rote tasks than you because I don't
Yeah,
mind doing the same thing over and over. You actually don't
I
like it.
know.
So,
But
okay,
yeah,
I want to move on to something else. Sometimes I think, well, I know for a fact, couples process things differently. I mean, I think we both processed
we do.
infertility differently. I think we processed Sarah's loss differently. You let me take the lead. Actually, I think with both my parents, which was more natural. But when we were both going through something together, we do it differently, and it's been really. It was hard because I didn't see you grieving Sarah the way I wanted. I grieved Sarah. I felt like I was more sad, and then it made me think that you didn't care. And for a long time, that was kind of a struggle. But now, I mean, we've been married a long time and we've been still together. I mean, relatively, but now I think I just learned that people just really process things differently, and you have to give some grace there for people to experience even a shared experience, to experience it separately, and that's kind of unique.
It's it kind of, frankly, this is your first episode, and I wonder how this frames keep moving forward, because what
You can
lessons can you
only move
draw?
forward the way I want you to move forward is
Yeah,
basically it. Yeah, I mean,
so I sense that. So I think the thing is that, like, we're gonna workshop this idea here. As I always like to do, it's strategizing and fix things. But I wonder if it's how much of this is actually what tools you could develop, or what concrete conclusions you develop or draw as you talk to folks about the challenges you overcome, versus maybe something different. Concepts and the stories themselves are
hmm
really important, powerful. How folks overcame them. The I think I'm not sure how special my story is with regards to reporting what I thought was an egregious abuse of power, but I think a lot of people do get something out of it. So the telling of the stories, maybe some over the course of a long stretch of time, maybe some concepts and ideas that evolve about how, like that, just the simple idea of resiliency and perspective, rather than like exactly how folks navigated it. Like you mentioned Sarah, and how you responded or dealt with that were very different from me. I frankly, I intentionally don't think about it and kind of suppress that idea. It doesn't,
Very
you
healthy,
know,
honey.
it doesn't. I think it's extremely healthy. I think it's not like something it makes me very sad. It is like one of the most terrible things, maybe the most terrible thing that we had to deal with thus far. And I don't want to think about it. I don't like thinking about it, and it doesn't make me like ill-equipped to handle other challenges. It gives me, if anything, perspective, and I don't need to wear it on my sleeve in order to like process it or deal with it. So yes,
I'm a
it's
little
very, very,
different.
yeah.
To me, I have to remember her because she's kind of only real in my memory. So I have to remember her. And frankly, getting up every day, moving forward, is my way of honoring her life because I remember I just wanted to go to sleep. I think I actually said that to a doctor and kind of freaked him out after she died. And I, then I just kind of decided, like, no, I'm going to get up every day. I'm going to do the things because she died. I didn't. And so
Yeah.
my life is my tribute to her. I mean, not my life, but, like giving up every day, doing these things. It's the same way I feel about my parents because both my parents are, in their 50s when they passed away. And I'm 51 now. And so
No, you're
I,
not.
and I, it is my way of honoring them
So
is to go on and not die with them because that's not, I mean, we see like in
this is
history how people
a
died,
difference.
the Viking
Yeah.
funerals and everything, but that's like so silly to
Turns
me.
out
What
that
a
we're
waste.
turns out that we're different, and I would say this: what you know, in addition to not thinking about it, what was like, and if I think about it, then it becomes very, very vivid because of how awful the whole thing was. I bury it, down inside, deep down inside, or something like that. What I think is, I kind of lost my train of thought here. Well, actually, no, I didn't. So what I think is, I'm not, this is not fatalistic and anything along the lines of things happen for a reason. But if I think about it, I recognize that the sequence of events that allowed us to have Ellie, who is like my partner in crime, my buddy,
This is true.
that if things didn't happen the way they did, we would have never ended up there. So I can say that it's fine. It is what it is. And
Okay, Trump, it is what it is. Well,
yeah,
speaking of that, speaking of it is what it is, let's fast forward to 2019. Suddenly, our private life wasn't so private. There was a lot of public attention. How did you balance protecting our family and telling the truth? And, because it felt like days, like the attacks were aimed at us personally. What kept you going through that?
I'm thinking about this, kind of smirking as again another example of how I think we looked at things differently. I mean, of course, I'm responsible for fun, and you're responsible for safety.
Safety.
So, yeah, yeah. So therefore, you thought about like the personal family dangers, and I wasn't dismissive of those. I mean, if there were a couple of like, I don't think the American public is tracking that. At one point, we almost moved on to a military base. We seriously considered it based on the threats and the kind of the attacks that Trump, the Trump family, the henchmen were kind of directing in our
Speaking of
direction.
blocking things out, I block that out a lot, to be
So I
fair.
mean, what we did was we basically used we used the fact that I was in the White House and we had awesome representation, including folks that were in the kind of old school Republican Reagan sphere, to send the message that this could be a lot more of a difficult media environment if they continued to channel, rage against us, and that got them to back off. But I wouldn't say I was dismissive. I mean, look, I served, again, perspective was important. I served in combat. I received training for the assignments in the attaché assignment in Moscow, including, understanding the surveillance environment, the threat environment, and things of that nature. So I would say that I filtered out all of the stuff that was noise, and there was lots of like social media noise, and looked for really kind of things that mattered. The threats to the house were more meaningful than like all the social media noise.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think that's, you know, I describe it as really just stopping and thinking about what is true. And, I think about this a lot with Ellie because I remember at first it seemed like things were pretty good. You testified on a Tuesday and things seemed like, okay, maybe this is going to be all right. And then you met with the chief of staff of the Army, and I thought it didn't go well. You thought it went okay, but I wasn't so sure. And then the attacks really started lighting up. And I remember that weekend. And I just remember like looking on Twitter and seeing the things people were saying and seeing things gain traction. And I was like, oh my gosh, you can't, like, what do we do? You were active duty. Like, we couldn't really like speak out necessarily. And I just felt like all the stuff was being said and there was no way to stop it. There was no way. And I think about that with social media and with kids, because it feels like it's your whole world.
Yeah.
But the difference was I knew who I was. I mean, I was like a 40-something-year-old woman. Like I knew who you were. And so I knew it wasn't true, but I didn't feel like I wanted to tell everyone it wasn't true, but then I was like, well, I can't go it through. And I think about that with social media and with everything. Like, if you can't get in front of a story and you can't get your truth out, it can be really hard. That's where perspective comes in. And I think, and I know that a 14-year-old does not have perspective. And so that is something I think one of the biggest impressions, which I really rarely talk about, but it's one of the biggest things I learned about this is I think anytime you're going through something, it helps to know who you are and to stop and think and just write down like the truth. This is who Alex is. No matter what they're saying, this is who he is. This is who I am. And actually, one of the best things that I did see about me on the internet was who was Rachel Vindman. And I guess someone looked at my Pinterest because it said she appears to enjoy crafts. And I was like, yeah, well, I mean, she appears to enjoy saving ideas for crafts that she never really finishes those. But they didn't say that. But they got really close.
You're crafty.
Yeah, they're crafty.
Yeah.
I mean, that was actually something quite true. Well, I mean, okay, what were you going to say? Sorry.
I was just going to say, no, it's, I'm always going to defer to you, honey. I want to make you get your thoughts.
Well, you are my guest in this situation, so please.
Yeah. So, okay, wow. I'm going to have to be a guest more often to be able to get
like 12 more minutes.
Yeah. So, so now I have to reconstitute my thinking on this. But
what kept you going during those days? Like what?
Yeah. Well, I would say that first of all, relying on close friends and family is absolutely critical. I think we quickly fell on some strategy, and it helps being a strategist.
And we had a team of wonderful people helping us.
So that's exactly right. So we fell on a strategy where, yes, I couldn't say anything myself, but guess what? I had an attorney that could issue statements as if they're from me. And while I couldn't use my own voice because of the guidelines and how that would affect how the military would look at it, wide latitude to talk through really trusted.
It was still hard though. Like hard things are hard, but you use the tools you can, and I
think this is one of the worst things about the attacks on the public sector is that these are folks that really can't defend themselves.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
The attackers know this. They know that it's going to make it impossible for them to continue on in their in uniform or in their government jobs. So they do. Yeah. It's like how disgusting and predatory. So that's why when I see public service sector folks under attack, I do that, and try to make sure that people know that they have allies and supporters out there, so that they can keep moving forward, honey.
Yes, it's true. Yes, it's true. It takes a lot of us, and during this time, I mean, looking at the world in turmoil now, division, instability. This is like all the stuff that you study every day. What lessons from that time of extreme turmoil kind of guide you today?
I'd say one fundamental thing, and this is where it goes against the vein of a strategist that's trying to navigate, find the perfect solution. I at some point, maybe I have to think about it and diagnose it and figure out if there's like more to this. But at some point, I kind of prioritized what was important, and I wasn't going to overthink how things were going to play out. Let's say in the impeachment hearings or in the Senate, and focused in on what was in my span of control and what my job was, what my duties and responsibilities were. Tried not to embarrass myself, and really made the decision to string together simple right or wrong decisions to navigate what would be otherwise impossible. And I think one of the things I guess I take pride in is I did manage to do that. Make simple, call balls and strikes, and make simple calls on what's right and wrong to navigate through something that I could have tried to strategize through, maybe possibly do better or do worse, but I could live with the way I think things played out. So sometimes
is there anything you would change if you could change anything about the hearings or anything? Like, would you maybe have practiced your opening statement a couple more times?
So I think
Did anyone suggest that you should?
yes. We'll get to that in a second, but
Okay.
I want to emphasize this point about keeping things, frankly, not overcomplicating things and
Yeah.
keeping things simple. But yes, maybe I would have actually. It wouldn't have risen to something I would like, call out and say that I would have to. I should have, that I have regrets about. But yes, every now and then when like the hearings come on and I hear myself reading the opening statement, which I thought I took pride in that statement. It was truthful and accurate, and hit the markers I needed to. I probably could have rehearsed it a little bit better, but I was also, that's where the nerves were after that
Of
part.
course. Yeah.
I settled in.
I know. It's I think you could have read it
I don't
10
like
more
reading out
times.
loud. So
Yeah.
part of this is I don't like reading out loud. I mean,
Yeah.
like, you do better story time than I do.
Okay, fair. Has your definition of courage changed?
I have I think a more nuanced definition of courage. I think if you asked me before, I wouldn't have differentiated physical courage and moral courage. And physical courage, for folks that have heard me talk about this, I describe that as the feats that, first responders, police, and firefighters face, or the military in battle. Those are the things that get recognized and get rewarded, with medals and decorations. But those are kind of heat of the moment, not a huge amount of time to think through, reflect, understand consequences. Those are the things that, in certain regards, I think, frankly, there might be easier because you're relying on training. You things that you had thought through. Moral courage is different. Moral courage is maybe dealing with unexpected challenges and sticking to values and principles when you know the costs, when you could foresee the cost being high, and doing what you think is right,
Yeah.
regardless of the consequences.
Yeah. If you could talk to your younger self before all of this, what is some advice you would give yourself?
So, again, this is, I don't want to be fatalistic, and I just finished reading a pretty good science fiction series. So I wonder if what would happen if we had the butterfly effect and I changed something as a young guy that would have like, I think the stars brought us together, so I'm not worried about us meeting. So that part's
But the sliding
cool.
doors of your career, like if
So
you
yeah, no,
hadn't been there, on July 19th,
Sure.
or
But,
July 25th, 2019, or, like,
I was working my way around to
okay,
answering this
sorry,
question.
sorry, sorry.
But I would say that, you know, certainly I was pretty ill disciplined and unfocused in the earlier days. Especially before joining the military, I would maybe have tried to counsel myself. I probably wouldn't listen to be a little more serious and focused. Um,
It turned out okay.
yeah, I mean, maybe overcorrected with regards to like education. It's something I'm a cautionary tale getting kicked out of my first university.
Again, it
But
turned out
yeah,
okay. I mean, I
yeah,
think it's all those things about, like you were saying earlier, that, you know, if Sarah had lived, we wouldn't have Ellie. I mean, like, life is like that. It's hard to look at it like that because it was so deeply, deeply sad. And like I said, to me, it's something I still think about often, and it is still very sad to me. But it doesn't mean that there won't be joy also later. And
yeah.
we've started over so many times, uh, like a jillion moves. Um, we wanted to have 3 or 4 children. We have one surviving child and 3 dogs. We
Three fur
envisioned our
babies.
yeah, 3 for our babies. We envisioned a life so different than what it is. It's the zigs and the zags and the ups and the downs, and I mean, I think everyone has that. But now at 50, you just turned 50 recently. What does keep moving forward mean to you? Like, the idea of that, what does that mean to you now?
Well, I guess first, I don't know if anybody has told you this, but you look very pretty.
Thank you.
So,
I barely left the house today, so there's not
yeah,
many opportunity for many people to tell me that.
yeah. So, well, I hope you have me on future podcasts also. But so look, I think the idea of moving forward, we're at a point where like I'm halfway there, I guess. And what is it? And in certain regards, I think just getting started with the ability to have like a meaningful impact on the world around me. As I think a lot of folks hit middle age and 50, they gain power and experience and all these things to really have an impact on their lives, community, things like that. So I feel like that's where I am with a lot of work to do in front of me. You know, we've got a beautiful family with a young daughter still. She's 14, so we've got plenty of things to do there. Um, Community, neighborhood, whatever I could do to fulfill my manifesto of serving public interests, helping get leaders elected that will follow their values and ethics, um, advance U.S. national security. I mean, there's a lot to do, and 40 is like the new 35 or something.
Yes, but you're
I
50.
mean 50,
Okay.
whatever. The new
Um,
35,
okay.
40.
Well, before we wrap up, I want to ask every guest this. When life feels heavy, what helps you, motivates you to keep moving forward?
Mm, I want to model good behavior for my daughter, and she motivates a lot of my actions. I believe that I'm in a frankly unique position being dragged into the public eye, but now having to live up to a ethic and a value and a kind of a code of conduct. So trying to do good things motivates me. I want to be able to have fun with my family and have some beautiful experiences and help people get into some good trouble. Those things motivate me.
I love that. I love you.
I love you. So, what I guess what is do you have what I guess what struck you from this conversation, having basically we've been together for more than 20 years. Did you is that something new that or something that you unexpected?
Well, I'm supposed to be the one asking questions, but I will indulge you
Yes.
and allow you this. Yeah, I mean, the idea of optimism as not just pie in the sky, but an optimism as a manifestation or a realization of perspective, I think is a really interesting concept. And I'm going to think about that some more because I am not always the most optimistic person. And but I think it's just kind of the way you frame it, the way you look at it, and I really like that. So,
Why wouldn't we? Why wouldn't we be optimistic? We're doing pretty well.
I mean, I think it's that you come through something. You're right, because even if things don't go the way you want it to, it doesn't mean that. Like I mean, I've been saying this like several times in this podcast, but that it would still be great. So, yeah, I need to think about that some more, but I really like it. And just before I close, I really want to thank the Siren, my good friend Joanne Carducci and Sam Schwartz, who have put together this great network and group of creators and invited me to be part of it. I'm really excited to be part of it, and I just want to thank them. And if you haven't subscribed to the Siren Substack, I would really encourage you to do so. They're going to be some really great shows, and you'll have access to all of them. And we have some really great things planned. So just want to give that little plug. And, I think, and just to remind you all, there's always a reason to take that next step, to keep moving forward. So with that, I'm Rachel Vindman. Thank you for being part of this conversation and for letting us share our story with you. It's very special. We've never talked about most of this stuff publicly. And I'll be back again next week. But until then, keep moving forward.